One of the biggest challenges to becoming a great strength and conditioning coach is to be a great time manager. Here in week 7, we're going to talk a little bit about time management. I don't know if you're anything like I am, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of information that's out there, as well as all the responsibilities of a strength and conditioning coach. In this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the time management process, techniques and skills to become a more effective time manager, um, the mindset of an effective time manager, as well as common things that take your time, zap your time as a strength coach. When we start the process, it begins with basically tracking your time. The best thing you can do is to take a week out of your schedule and track every 15 minutes and see where you are being effective, where you're being inefficient, and what are the things that are your time is being allocated the most. Once you've tracked your time, you want to set SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, they're measurable. Basically, you're giving it a date and a time to be accomplished. They're achievable, meaning that you have the resources to be able to accomplish them. They're realistic, meaning that they can be done within the time frame that you've given, and they're timed. They're broken down into smaller, short-term objectives. One of the common problems with this process basically is not setting up a follow-up plan of action, not writing down a plan. And you can set all the goals you want in the world, but unless you have a plan to accomplish them, that's where the problem comes in. So by writing down what you're trying to accomplish, what you do is you hold yourself accountable to a plan of action. And ultimately, it comes back on you whether or not you're following that plan of action or not. You need to create task-specific to-do lists, master to-do lists and daily to-do lists. What works for me is I create a master to-do list on my iPhone with my notes application on my iPhone, and I'll write out all the things that I need to get done. And I also use a combination of the iPhone app as well as note cards. And what I'll do is on the blank side of a note card, I'll write something like plan the winter program. And on the back side, I will write down all the steps that it takes to create that program. So the conditioning part, the flexibility, motivation and accountability, responsibility, whatever it may be, and I'll chunk it down into smaller tasks. I'll also use that note card system with doing daily to-dos. At the end of my day, I'll take those note cards out and I'll write down very quickly things that need to get done the next day or small things that kind of add up. I kind of keep note cards by my computer on my phone, and if I get a message or a phone call or something along those lines, I'll write down on the note card and I'll keep that. And so when I have time, I'll just pull those out and knock out little things here and there. But what works for me is at the end of the day, I plan the next day. So I have a mindset going into the next day of all the things that I got coming up, where some time gaps are that I can fill some of these smaller things in, as well as where can I place time and importance into the more challenging tasks that I need to get accomplished. You've got to prioritize your task accordingly. We're going to talk about the 80-20 rule here in a second, but essentially, there's going to be a lot of things that can take time. And when you got 105 guys, different things come up all the time. So, or when you have 440 plus athletes like we have here, everything seems important, but you have to prioritize what's the biggest bang for your buck, and then also learn to delegate. You've got to chunk down your task. You got to put them into like-minded tasks. So, common things are grouping all your email returns together, or grouping all your phone returns together. Whatever it may be. Whenever I go upstairs to go to a meeting or to talk with administration, I try to knock out going to the mailbox and turning in budget paperwork and all these things because I'm in that area. Schedule blocks of time to do tasks. I schedule time with myself. So when in my day, whenever I have if I have a lift group at 9 o'clock and I have a lift group at 11 o'clock, at 10 o'clock I'll schedule me in and use that time to work on some of these master to-do tasks and set a time limit to it and go. The 80-20 rule basically states that 80% of your efforts will produce 20% of the results, and we have to strive on a daily basis to try to make that less. We want to make 50% of our efforts be 50% of our results. You want to make sure that you're trying to make your day as efficient as possible, and that you're not doing these minute tasks that are unproductive. You've got to balance your routine, establishing a daily, weekly, and monthly routine, forming excellent habits. I always use the quote, if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. So finding that balance to your day is critical in determining, establishing a process to become a more time-efficient manager. So with becoming more effective, it really kind of comes down into 5 tasks. All right. First, you want to be flexible with your time. Things are going to pop up. Emergencies are going to pop up. I call it the fire drill. You're putting out a fire, you turn around, and there's another fire that pops up behind you. Whenever you're dealing with the number of athletes that you deal with as a strength and conditioning coach, you have to allocate and you have to be flexible with your time. If an athlete comes coming into my office and he's broken up with his girlfriend or her boyfriend, parent might have passed away, whatever it may be, that's more important for me to sit down and counsel that young athlete. That's why I got into this profession. It's more important for me to sit down with them than it is for me to plan a percentage breakdown for a periodization model that I'm working on. That's why we get into this business. So you have to be flexible for your time. Those things are going to pop up. A coach is going to come down and need something. An athletic director is going to come down and need something. An athlete, whatever it may be, those things are going to pop up. Likewise, you got to be inflexible with setting time limits. So whenever I sit down and I've scheduled my time with for a project, I need to put a time limit on that. So if it's if I'm going to spend 45 minutes that day on planning the winter program, then I need to go for 45 minutes. And what will happen is it forces you to become more efficient. It's kind of like when you're going on vacation. When you're going on vacation and you have to get a million things done, which if you're going to be a strength coach, you're not going to take too much vacation, but you need to. But you'll find that you'll be more efficient, because you're trying to get out of there. You're trying, you got to get going. And by doing that same type of mind trick with yourself, where you're going to set that time limit in that 45 minutes. If I know I only got 45 minutes to get something done, I'm going to be as efficient as possible. I'm going to try to eliminate as many distractions as possible, and then I'm going to go. And it forces you to become more efficient. Organize your environment. I can't tell you, my staff and I, we just got brand new office furniture, and I'm so happy because for the most part I'm a pretty organized guy, but the other 2 offices they were struggling a little bit, and it wasn't so much because they were messy people, but they just did not have the proper environment to be organized. And now that they have that, it looks phenomenal, and they're a lot more efficient and a lot more effective. But when you have a sloppy desk and you're trying to find a workout card, or you're trying to find a number, or, that's 5, 10, 15 minutes that you spend looking for different things. That adds up over time, and it's wasteful time. It's time that you need to give back. And like I said at the beginning, it's so important that you give time back, get time back for your family because you're giving so much. So organizing your desk, organizing your file folders in your hard drive so that it's easy to go find information. Trying to create a great tagging system for how you label things and how you're able to find them quickly. All of our stuff is labeled, with the date. So it's '08 winter testing, '08 underscore winter testing, or whatever the year designation is, the period designation, and then the file name. You need to try to find some sort of um, organizational resource, whether it be Outlook, some of the computer-based programs, or Franklin day planner or something along those lines, or an application on your iPhone. Whatever it may be, you need to find some things to help you set reminders and go. One of the things that I do with our athletes is I put all their birthdays into my Outlook calendar. I do everything off Outlook for the most part, but in the Outlook calendar, I'll put those in and I'll have it reminding me a day before their birthday. So this is a way for me to make sure that I'm showing some personalized attention to our athletes, but then also it's a way for me to stay involved with their lives and stay as organized as I can. So whatever it may be, I use a combination of both. I have my Outlook calendar, but then I keep a Franklin day planner with me. That's when I jot down notes and things, and I kind of set my daily to-do list in that, and it works fairly well. Lastly, you got to keep a watchful eye on time sapping habits. They'll set these bad habits will sabotage your progress and your success. And so, keeping your eyes open for those things that you're spending a lot of time on, whether that's internet surfing or spending too much time with email or spending too much time sitting up talking to coaches, whatever it may be, you need to find those things and try to make those things more efficient. So it really gets broken down to finding more time throughout your day. Really gets broken down into skills and techniques. Okay, there's 9 basic skills that will help you become will improve your critical time management. So one of the first things and one of the most important things is computer literacy. I can't tell you how many strength coaches I know that peck on a computer. When I'm pecking with one finger on a computer, that takes a tremendous amount of time to return emails. I always use the example with my staff that when I first got to South Florida, I remember typing in every name on our team. We were running 40s, and I typed in every name, and then in the second column, I put their first attempt on the 40, and in their third column, I put their third attempt for the 40, and I needed to find the average. So instead of just using that equation and dragging it down and taking 2 minutes and knowing exactly what the average for every one of those athletes was, I sat there and took every number and added them together and divided them by 2 and got their average. And that took an extra 45 minutes to an hour at the end of a 12, 13-hour day. So, little things like that, becoming computer efficient, knowing the office applications, mastering a video analysis software or editing software, or whatever it may be. All those things are going to become things that give you time back in your day. So whether it be taking a Franklin Covey time management course or taking some of these computer courses. Here they offer some different computer training courses, and I make sure our staff takes all of them just so that we can become more efficient. And it goes into the next thing, which is your creative capacity. You've got to be creative. You've got to find ways outside of the normal way of thinking normal way of thinking for your area to challenge your train of thought. Um, simple things like taking a paint class so that like an Adobe Paint or Adobe Photoshop or something like that, so that you can put images and text and things like that on a picture and use that to motivate your guys. Whether or not you're doing a top 10. Sometimes we do a top 10. Halloween costumes for our football players. So we'll superimpose somebody's head on a Dracula costume or something, whatever it may be. If we had to outsource that to our sports information guys or things like that, it would take a lot of time. For us, it doesn't take a lot of time at all because we know how to do that. Critical thinking and problem solving, a lot of times I'm the worst at this, but sometimes I'll paralyze myself by analysis. I'll try to think of all the different possible situations and outcomes, and because of that, we paralyze progress. You've got to create critical thinking and problem solving skills and make decisions and go. And if it's not the right decision, at least you made a decision. You come back and you correct it. Next thing is you've got to delegate. This is something that was very difficult for me early on as a young strength coach, is I wanted to take on everything, and instead of teaching other people how to do it, I felt the more I know, the better the more indispensable I'll be, or whatever it may be. That's not the case at all. When you challenge others, you challenge yourself, and you've got to delegate things. So you've got to look at letting go. And one of the things that really hit with me one time was I think my wife had read an article about determining your hourly rate. What's your hourly rate? So that can be as simple as taking what you currently make and dividing that per 40 hours per week or whatever it may be. Or you can say, okay, well, I think I'm worth this, and put a dollar amount to it. And then take everything that you do and kind of equate it back to that. So something that we did is, it was easier. It was much easier for me to come up with the amount of time that I'm at home as opposed to the amount of time I'm at work. But, say that was 8 hours a week that I was at home that I could spend with my kids. That time was very valuable as opposed to getting out and mowing the yard. I didn't want to pay anybody to mow the yard. But that hour that it would have took me was, it was worth me to pay $20 to somebody for that hour, as opposed to what maybe I said my hourly rate was worth $70. At the end of the day, that time was more valuable. And same thing with the work. You want to say, you want to look at outsourcing things, whether it's within your staff or even outside of here. There's websites like Elance, 99 Designs, things like that, to where you can outsource a logo design or data entry. A lot of people are doing things with virtual assistants now, where instead of you sit there and put all these numbers in, you just scan it, send it to somebody. They put the numbers in for an hourly rate of $3 an hour, as opposed to you spending all your time doing it. So look at outsourcing some things, determine your hourly value, and make sure you delegate. A fifth skill is negotiation. That's what makes some of these coaches great coaches, is that they're great negotiators. They can sell anything to anybody, and they can get their way. And the more types of skills that you can, negotiating skills that you can acquire, whether or not you're reading books, going to seminars, listening to people, sit back and every meeting you're in, see how people kind of jockey for power or jockey for to get their way, and learn from that. A sixth skill is emotional intelligence, proactively controlling your emotions. Sometimes that's difficult to do. Sometimes first instinct is to unload, but then you got to turn around and you got to spend all that much more time kind of going back and cleaning up that mess. So really making sure that you're emotionally intelligent, multitasking ability, being able to do several things at once. Whether or not that's being able to put on a presentation, but then turn around and give it to several other people, or screen capturing it so that way now I don't have to give this presentation to my interns. I can just have them watch this. Whatever it may be, finding ways to multitask and group tasks and activities together is huge. Decision-making ability, making a definitive decision. We kind of talked about that, already. And then lastly, speed reading. That's a critical skill. It's a great skill. You got to do a lot of reading in this profession. And, any kind of speed reading techniques you can pick up. One that's really worked for me is using 3 fingers and, following lines in the words, in the books, and being able to, if I'm forcing my 3 fingers across quickly, and you pick up keywords within the sentence, you can really kind of speed read through some of these articles and not really bog yourself down with some things that are trivial, and just pull out the things that are important. Now, techniques are a little bit different. Techniques, these are things to also gain more time, but versus some things that you can kind of practice and work on. So one thing is to use positive affirmations. It's very simple. You wake up at the beginning of your day and you say, this is going to be a crappy day. Well, guess what? It's going to be a crappy day. You wake up and you say, this is going to be a great day. Then you have a much better opportunity of that becoming a great day. So same thing with being organized and being more time efficient. Today I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a great day, and we're going to be as time efficient as possible. So use those positive affirmations. Take regular breaks. Very important. Refresh the mind, clarify the thought process, improve creativity and flow of info. All those things happen when you're fresh. If you're not getting enough sleep at night because you're not becoming not efficient enough with your time in the day, and then late at night you're spending all this time and you're not sleeping, you're not going to be refreshed, and you're going to limit creativity, and you're going to limit your decision making processes, and you're going to limit all those things, and you're going to have an inefficient day. Schedule regular breaks. One of the things that I try to do as best I can is I don't take work home. That's family time. That's different time. If I have to do it, I wait till they go to bed, the kids go to bed or whatever. But I try not to take work home, and keep that time as me time as opposed to the school that I'm working for or the program that I'm working for. Learn to say no. That's a tough thing to do sometimes, especially when you're trying to make it. But you got to learn to say no sometimes, because people are going to take. That's just the world that we live in. So stepping back and saying no to something, that a lot of times will kind of set boundaries and keep you so that you are able to accomplish other things. We got enough on our plate to be, coaching up athletes on strength and power and speed and balance, coordination, kinesthetic awareness, all these things. It takes a lot, so to add on a design element or something, or running guys for missing class, or sometimes you got to say no, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it's important for you to do. Create systems and processes. Something I try to do is, sometimes you can get people in your office, and once they're in your office, you're going to have them forever. I try to stand or have walking meetings, so instead of, somebody walks in, I know it's going to be, somebody's going to zap my time. Hey, walk with me to my next appointment, or I'll stand so that nobody ever really gets comfortable. Establishes some of these processes that's going to make things efficient. Eliminate unnecessary obligations and tasks. It sounds bad, but one of the things you can do is under promise and over deliver. It sounds bad, but it's really effective. If you go out and somebody comes in and says right away, okay, create me a workout card or whatever it may be, and you automatically offer up, well, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll do your logos, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to make it pretty, I'm going to do all these things, when all they wanted was something that's kind of written out. Well, you just added a bunch amount of time to your day. But if you would say, okay, and then you turn around, and that's what I'm going to do, and then all of a sudden you add those things in because you had time, then you're going to over deliver, and they're going to be excited. Instead of expecting that because you offered it up in the initial conversation, really kind of work those conversations so that that you're in control of your time as opposed to taken away from that. Commit to constant improvement. I'm a lifelong learner. I've kind of said that in several presentations, but you've got to constantly improve, whether it be taking classes, reading books, listening to people, talking to people. There's a ton of people that have been there, done that, and it's important for you to kind of reach out to them as well. Okay, so the mindset of an efficient time manager really starts off with asking, critical time efficiency questions. Whenever you're faced with a task, whenever you're faced with a project, whatever it may be, ask yourself 3 questions. Okay, first, what is the best use of my time right now? Okay, if I'm sitting back and I'm saying, okay, the best use of my time right now is giving this presentation to you, it's good. If I'm sitting there saying the whole time I'm doing something and I'm saying, now I should be doing this, I should be doing that, then I'm not really being effective. And it's probably going to reflect in my work. So what's the best use of your time? What's the future impact of this activity? This right here has huge impact. It's going to be good for my interns. It's going to be good for you, good for some business-related things, all those types of things. So a lot of things that go into that. If I'm sitting here checking email, I should be home. I should be at home, being with my family. And that again, that's something that I step back. Lastly, am I the best person to do this job? If I can delegate these types of things, then I need to be doing that in my role. But as always looking at each situation and seeing if it's something that could be outsourced or if it's something that could be delegated or something that just shouldn't be on your plate and you shouldn't be doing. Now, it's important that you work in conjunction with wherever your pecking order is, whatever your chain of command is. If it's the head strength coach that's come down saying, hey, you need to do this, guess what? You need to do it, and you need to do it well. Next, you need to become an optimistic realist. Optimistic that you're going to get things done well, that you're going to do it in the most efficient way, that you understand the obstacles and they've been outlined, and you've outlined a plan to overcome them. You have to be optimistic about it, that you're going to be able to accomplish this the best way and that you're going to do it the most efficient way. You go into it like that. If you go into it, oh shoot, I don't want to do this and it's going to take me forever and I don't know how to do it, you're going to have lots of problems. Become proactive rather than reactive. Calm and under control versus physically and emotionally reacting to events and circumstances. This leads to fear and overwhelming, leads to stress, and I'm telling you right now, this job is stressful enough without you adding to it. And so get your emotions under control and learn to be calm and, instead of physically and emotionally reacting to things, sit back, internalize them, and then respond, and go into it with that optimistic, realist attitude. You need to apply a focused concentration. Whenever you're working on something, it needs to be a singular focus as opposed to thinking about a bunch of different things at once. Don't seek perfection. This is something I really struggle with. I want to make it the best way, make the best thing that you possibly have ever seen, and I'll strive at that to the point where multiple drafts and whatever it may be. And what I've come to find out, again, it's all good things to do, but at the same time, your perfection may not, and your realization of what that should be may not be what they're looking for. And so if you strive for this, this arbitrary perfection, and it's not what they're looking for, well, then it's outside of your control. And so the best thing you can do is just make sure that you're showing progress towards it. You'll have little chance of being proficient if you're constantly trying to be perfect. So show progress, make your adjustments, and then keep going. And a lot of times as a task manager, I want to see that things are being done and having a chance to make some input as opposed to um, waiting, 2-3 weeks, receiving it, and then being, well, this isn't what I wanted. So keep those things in mind. Commit yourself towards being applying diligent, consistent effort. Um, without it, you won't be able to form the necessary habits needed. Show commitment and discipline towards completing tasks. His bottom line is if you don't show that type of commitment and that consistent, diligent effort, you're not going to accomplish anything. And lastly, show an enthusiastic attitude. See everything as a challenge. Keep a smile on your face. Um, it will keep you out. That will keep you high, and you'll watch others kind of crumble under the pressure. And that, like I said, that emotion, that that enthusiastic, that challenge, that optimistic realist. Those things are going to help you progress when other people will crumble. All right, common time wasting activities. You gotta avoid habits of procrastination and laziness. Um, one of the things that you need to try to do, or at least I try to do, is I try to take the top 10 things that I hate to do the most, and I really strive to find more efficient ways to get them done. And what you'll find is that you get more efficient at doing some of these things to become, they're getting taken off that list. Sometimes they're replaced with other things, um, but you try to knock those things off and just avoid, avoid an activity. Those things are going to sneak up on you, and it's going to take that much more time to accomplish them. Avoid the trap of waiting. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be waiting, whether or not, you're sitting outside the head coach's office waiting to talk to him. You're at a doctor's office, you're doing your grocery shopping, whatever it may be. There's lots of opportunity for you to be doing some tasks, and so, whenever I'm sitting in a doctor's office, I typically have either a book on my iPhone, or I'm returning emails or phone calls. If I'm in the grocery store and my wife's, doing whatever, I'm carrying the cart around, I'm sitting there and I'm returning emails. I try to take those simple things that can be done at any time, anywhere, and do them then. But instead of just standing there and wasting time, try to get things knocked out. And again, when you're fresh like that, it's a different task. A lot of times will be an effective use of your time. Avoid constant disruptions. It's been shown that it can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes after a disruptions happen for you to get back on track. Get that momentum back. And so, if it takes you informing others, look, this is my time, and you close your door, and you put a do not disturb sign, whatever it may be. Make sure that you try to avoid those constant disruptions. And one thing again, try to avoid those toxic people. Those people that will drag you down. And especially in this business, it's very easy for somebody to come in and not like what the head coach is doing, or not like what another coach is doing. As a strength coach, this office is kind of like a testimonial, or whatever they call it when you go and you talk to the priest, and you're giving all your secrets away, you're giving all of your deals away. A confessional. This is kind of like a confessional, where people are just going to come in here, they're going to shut the door, and they're going to take an hour of your time. And you got to try to avoid those type of people. And again, those are those times when I stand up and I got to walk to another meeting. And I might just go walk to get the mail or something, but just by moving, sometimes they won't follow. Avoid the habit of just staying busy. It's a form of procrastination, even though you're making it look like you're busy. You got to remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of your production, 80% of what you do is only going to go to 20% of the production. You don't want to try to avoid that, but so just sitting there pounding away on the computer and doing emails all day long, that's not productive. You got to make sure that what you're doing is contributing to the bottom line. Avoid the technology trap. again, internet surfing, email, watching TV, talking on the phone. My wife wastes more time talking on the phone than and again, it's good for her and her relationships and all those types of things. But at the same time, I can only hear so much, um, TV drama and that type of stuff. That stuff just, it doesn't seem like it's a great use of time. Um, but they can all sabotage your time efficiency as well. Avoid stress, fear, becoming overwhelmed. The only way to do that again is be prepared. Make sure that you're prepared for everything you do, and if you are prepared, you'll avoid those emotions and you'll be productive. Um, you know, Going back a little bit to technology trap, a point that I did not hit on. Consider hiring somebody or paying for these classes to be able to teach you how you can use those things more efficiently. Like I said, if typing's a skill that you need to work on it. And hire somebody to do that. Those things will pay dividends. I promise. Here's some of the references and the recommendations. But at the end of the day, becoming an effective time manager really just takes a little diligent effort. You just got to put some effort into it, and you got to hold yourself accountable. Consistently practice and implemented throughout your day. It will lead to a greater sense of satisfaction and freedom. I promise you. Having an effective day, having it be very, very efficient, getting a lot of things done, you'll feel accomplished. And likewise, if you are not prepared and you are not very effective and you're not very efficient, then at the end of the day, um, you are going to feel pretty stressed and worn out and zapped and tired and all those types of things. And again, when you've done that, and that's at the end of a 12, 13, 14-hour day, it really is going to be a challenge for you to sustain this career long term. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, it's not the sexiest title or sexiest thing that really going to stand out, but I'm telling you, the more time that you put into this element right here, the better you're going to be as a strength and conditioning coach. Make sure you go to the Facebook page and comment and interact with each other and talk about different things that you do. I'd love for you to go on and again, some of the things, whether it be the index card or you use a specific type of planner or you read a specific book, recommend it to the rest of the group, because we're all trying to get better. And like I said, I'm going to learn as much from you as hopefully you learn from me. So appreciate your time and look forward to next week. Take care.